the idea that I had was that, that these, black people were, forcibly taken from their home by these white people. No, they were captured by other blacks, uh, other tribes who kept most of the slaves for themselves. And they sold some of them to the white merchants who came and took them back to America. So I found that fascinating. Another thing that I found fascinating is that Native Americans had slaves. Well, first of all, before the white man even came, Native Americans were enslaving Native Americans because that was just how people were. Stronger people enslaved weaker people. But what was most fascinating about that is that Native Americans enslaved African Americans. But what I found very fascinating was that, are you familiar with the Trail of Tears?
Yes, a little bit, but probably not to the level that you are.
So this was when a lot of the Native American tribes in the Southeast were relocated to, the Midwest, and they marched them across the country. A lot of them died. That's why I call it the Trail of Tears. What's fascinating is that a lot of these tribes that were relocated with their black slaves. And these Native American tribes fully bought into the idea of slavery. They believed that they were equal to whites and superior to blacks. They had slave laws just like the white people had slave laws. They put down slave rebellions just like white people put down slave rebellions. So those are some of the things that I found very, very fascinating when I started doing my study. These are things you won't hear hardly anywhere else.
When you present that again to the black community, what is the response?
Well, I've been accused of giving white people a pass.
Hmm.
And when I'm giving a talk, I've given the talk on Christianity and slavery a lot. But when I'm giving a talk, I'm never trying to give anyone a pass. The context that I'm doing it whenever I give the talk is that I'm setting the stage for how slavery was before Christianity came along, how it was worldwide, how it was accepted, how, they were, most ancient civilizations didn't even have a word for freedom. But my point in going through all of that is to show that it was Christianity that actually sparked the abolitionist movement, which actually is responsible for setting the foundation for the abolition of slavery worldwide. So I counter people when they say that Christianity is a slave religion by saying that it is Christianity that set the foundation for the abolition of slavery worldwide. Because of the idea that man is made in the image of God, which is what sparked the abolitionist movement, was caught fire across Europe, was spread throughout the rest of the world, which is why now slavery is very rare in very few spaces, and a lot of those places, usually it's Muslims who are still involved in slavery. But the reason why slavery isn't worldwide now is because of the Christian worldview. But I'm not giving anyone a pass. I'm just trying to help people understand that slavery isn't this new invention that happened in the antebellum South. Not at all. It has always existed and probably would if it wasn't for the idea of Christianity. When people say slavery is wrong now, they're actually borrowing from the Christian worldview in order to say that. Because slavery isn't incompatible with Islam. It's not incompatible with atheism. It's incompatible with the idea of man being made in the image of God, that man has worth because he is made in the image of God.
Yeah, and I mean, even in the New Testament, if you just take the book of Philemon, where you have this runaway slave, Onesimus, and the Apostle Paul basically tells his owner, like, you need to treat him as a brother, as an image bearer, with respect and dignity. And it gets way deeper than that in the New Testament theology. But like you said, the idea that every man, regardless of where he was born, what he looks like, deformities, height, weight, skin color, all the variables of man, everyone is made in the image of God and thus has inherent dignity to them.